So this is game number 2 now of this best of 7. Spawning down in the bottom left-hand position, representing Startail, it is none other than Life. And his opponent, up to the top right, the red Zerg, representing Team Liquid. It is Team Liquid Snute. Now, a couple of people have mentioned that that was a replay, that first game. Yes, all of the games tonight, as I mentioned when the stream went live, are replays. And the reason for that is because these two were both able to play when they were in the same continent. And therefore, we said, okay, play it out together when you've got no time zone problems or things like that. And then what we're going to do is make sure no one sees the replays, no one knows the results. I don't. There's 7 games. They've all been hidden. So basically, I can only see one game at a time. They're all hidden in folders, so there's no way I can see without purposefully going to look how many games are or anything like that. So it's as good as we can get to it being completely unknown. The only people who know the results of this series are Snute, Life, and the sponsor who paid the winner. That is all. Anyway, back to this game. We've got Snute this time opening up with an extractor first. So he took a lot of damage early on game 1 from an early pull from Life. And Life has gone for that yet again. Snute is further behind on the spawning pool timing, but his gas timing is just about the same. So Snute has got a slightly better economy now by 2 drones. He needs to be able to utilize that well. Remember, this is Nimbus, a much larger map, and that means that neither player knows where the other is going to be spawning. All 4 spawn positions are possible. No scouting coming out yet. The first giveaway to where they're going to be is immediately when these two overlords bump heads. If they bump heads, and they should do because they both checked to see if there's any creep, both seen that there's not, and will now come across. This will let them know that, okay, their opponent is cross-map. The first little giveaway. Life again pulling up a couple of these Zerglings, looking to get very aggressive. Starting to move on forward. He's got only 6 lings this time, but speed is coming down. This is something that Life did not have in game number 1. It's going to be interesting to see how it works. Snute, on the other hand, though, completely different opening. He's gone for that extractor into the pool to get a very early Zergling speed. No hatch first. He's in a much stronger position to be able to defend this. His Overlord as well, cutting across. We'll see these Zerglings that attempted to basically avoid any Overlord detection get spotted. That's a really nice spot by Snute, and that's going to give him ample time to produce some defensive Zerglings. Speed is pretty much equal between them. Only about a second advantage for Life, which is insignificant in terms of how this is going to go. The defender's advantage will be more than enough to stop that for Snute. Snute also knows that there's some lings there, but does he know the commitment that Life's going for? He's getting out a lot of speedlings here, and in the hands of Life, Zerglings are ridiculously effective. Snute, though, he's going for a baneling nest, and, well, that's a good way to deal with, obviously, a lot of speedlings. If he gets the good connections, he's going to win this fight easy peasy. He's up by 7 workers already and has been for a long time. This is a massive commitment from Life, who's pretty much going all in at this stage. Can he do enough damage? The baneling nest not yet done. Snute trying to get out some lings of his own, but he's only got 6 at the moment. Some more going to be popping on in. The queen in a nice defensive position where it can't easily get surrounded. First few engagements coming down. There's 2 queens for Snute, both positioned beautifully. First few banelings now morphing on through. Life going to be very aware that any damage he's going to be able to do has to be before those banelings come on down. The drones taking a little bit of fire. 2, 3 have been killed so far, but the majority of the speedlings will die. 1 queen gets taken down. The second queen incredibly low, but is now flanked by banelings. A 3rd queen pops on out. Means even though the second queen dies, injects are still possible for Snute. He manages to minimize the damage. Only takes 3 workers worth of losses. Able to dish out a decent amount of damage. But it's the queens going down there with a big mineral loss. Although Snute, he can afford that. He's had the better economy for most of this game. Gets some good baneling hits there. Pretty much stops any further aggression. Loses 1 more drone there. But 4 drones and a couple of queens may seem like a lot of resources down. But remember, Life had to cut a heck of a lot of drone production to be able to afford that. And as a result, Snute is actually sitting quite economically comfortable. He's got a slight advantage in the tech because of the fact that he's got the baneling nest already down, up against the only speed from Life. Life is going to be able to start up the hatchery fractionally sooner than that of his opponent. But again, we're talking 16, 17 seconds there. Nothing significant. Coming on down, we've got the Zerglings looking to try and get some counter damage, but Life wisely pulling those 2 queens completing the wall off thanks to this debris, preventing Snute from being able to get in or being able to see anything else at all. So that's some really nice work right there from the Team Liquid ZvZ. Life, on the other hand, he's still just happily droning on up, pumping him out nice and pronto. Both players matched at around that 19-20 drone mark, a fractional lead for Snute compared to Life, but it's very minuscule. Of course, the Baneling Nest is still down, so that could potentially get some nice damage. Snute is going to come in through here, has got the advantage in terms of the Zerglings on the map, and there are a lot here with speed. Banelings are still a possibility, not something that Life has available to him, so he needs to make sure that these Queens are doing a good job of fending off any pressure by just blocking off that ramp. But they've done it quite well so far. Snute backing out. He's got obviously a nice position. He's still banking up a good amount of gas, whereas Life has pulled all of his drones out of gas to maximize his mineral income at the moment. And the result of that is that Snute is sitting quite comfortably up. He's also getting the +1 melee, the +1 ground armor upgrade. And the reason that is really important for him is because by having that +1 armor, Banelings from Life, if he gets any, would take 2 Banelings to kill off Snute's Zerglings. The Zergling and Zergling fight would obviously be doing a good little bit to help there as well. So this +1 armor is the big advantage that Snute is currently able to get for himself. An Evo Chamber coming down here for Life, and this may seem a bit strange. It's like, okay, why is he coming at the front? Key benefit is he's just attempting to make sure that he can block off this ramp a little bit better, make sure that he's not going to allow those Lings to come on through. Still checking, making sure what else is coming on through here, trying to keep a good eye on everything that these two are doing. We've got, of course, the third now coming down from Snute, and that in itself is going to be a lot of help for him, because generally, if a Zerg player is able to get their third up before their opponent, they're going to be in a very strong spot for that. But the problem as well with that is that the third's vulnerable. It could easily get taken out by a lot of Lings, but Life taking his own now, that's something that Snute's going to be very happy to see. Both players are taking up into the Rotoron, although Life is pretty substantially ahead right there. Going to be able to get it down. Lair timings are just in favor of Life as well, but not by too much. Now, because they've both gone into Roaches, it causes a slight problem with this +1 Carapace upgrade. Now, in a Roach-on-Roach fight, the +1 armor doesn't make a significant amount of difference. The +1 attack's helpful, that's why you'll always see players going Roach-on-Roach, go for that. Once we do have Hydralisks down, if we get Hydralisks down, that is when the +1 Carapace can start making a difference. But Snute going to be slightly at a disadvantage in terms of those upgrades, but does have obviously the +1 Carapace done, and it will make a small amount of difference, especially with Speedlings out on the field, which are being used quite extensively by Snute at the moment. Roach speed is pretty much neck and neck actually, despite the Roach Warren and Lair being done fractionally sooner for Life, and that's obviously going to be nice for Snute. He's minimized some of the disadvantage that he got from being later on those structures, and so with this scout coming in, Snute's going to be pretty happy seeing that, okay, well, I was ahead on my third base timing. I know that I should be sitting in quite a nice spot economically. And definitely, he is. Sitting here, got the 64-60 immediately down. So a small little drone lead, just 5 of them, but he's had a consistent drone lead for a lot of this game, especially in the early game when Life committed heavily to that Speedling play. He got a massive drone lead, didn't really lose too many, and that was really beneficial for him. Snute is always pumping out a lot of Roaches too. He's going to be taking a big Roach lead, whereas Life cutting a few in order to get down the Infestation Pit. Now, this is a very different approach in terms of their strategy. We've also got Life going for the double upgrades, so he is going to be able to catch back up with those upgrades. He's also, of course, going to have potentially Infestors, may look to go Swarm Hosts, although I imagine Infestors will be more likely here. Roach Infestor, a very strong composition, quite popular in Korea as well. The Roaches for Snute out on the map now, a lot coming down defensively as well for Life. He sees, of course, this Roach move out thanks to the Overseer just outside Snute's third. Roaches now coming to look to attack. Roach count 29-15. Life should have time to get out these additional Roaches though in order to fend this off. Upgrade wise, it's going to be 1-1 up against 1-0. So a small upgrade lead for Snute. Engagement now, coming on through. The Roach count is pretty much neck and neck, but Defender's advantage is going to be there for Life. A slightly better concave for Snute at the moment. He's trying to take this fight as best he can. Overall, the resources lost, pretty similar, but as more Roaches trickle on through For life, Snute has no choice but to pull back. Cute little transfuse coming down there from the Startail player as well. Just making sure that he's maximizing the efficiency of these roaches. Trying to chase down Snute, get off a couple more kills. He's going to lose 2 roaches in exchange for that though. So pretty level pegging actually overall from the resources lost. And this means that this game not in any kind of dramatic fashion going to be ending soon. We've also got, of course, Infestors coming out. Now, Infestors are an incredibly powerful unit in roach-on-roach fights. For a start, they've got fungal growth, which does damage, but more importantly, it roots. And the reason that can be big is if you manage to get, say, a fungal on a clump of roaches like that, it's going to allow you to get a better attack arc, that better concave, maximizing your roach's damage while minimizing your opponent's roach's damage, basically by clumping some of them out of range to actually be able to attack. That can be a lot more substantial than you initially may think and really can swing the tide of a battle in roach on roach alone. The downside to those Infestors though is if their fungals don't do much, they don't do much. It's that simple. They've got to get the good fungal growths down. They're a very vulnerable unit, a very expensive unit. But Snute, he doesn't really have roaches and anything. He has roaches and some more roaches for good measure. No Hydras, which is something you'll often come through. Snute is reliant on just having overwhelming numbers at this stage, and he does have. He's up at 195 supply to 190. He doesn't have the upgrade advantage at the moment, but he will be able to take that back momentarily in about another 40 seconds once those 2-2 upgrades finish up. He'll have a 1 upgrade lead as well. Snute chilling here now with a 4th base. Life's is also on its way, but a little way behind. Life continuing up with additional tech, going for those Hydralisks, but is it going to be enough? Snute already moving forward. He's got a handful of Lings, which will become Banelings. And that means that he will get a lot of burst damage through. But remember, the Infestors are there. If they got some good fungals on the Banelings, that just takes them out. The first few fungal growths are going to go down. The Infestors should wait for enough energy to hit those Banelings once they morph in to minimize their damage. Is it going to hit? No, it doesn't. The Banelings able to get big connections up against those roaches. And while they may be pretty tanky, that was a lot of Banelings dealing an awful lot of damage exceptionally quickly. The Infestors trying to move on forward. They get a couple more fungals down, but they're now dying. Their energy depleted. One was picked off nice and quickly. Another Infestor did reinforce. Snute, though, losing the majority of these roaches, despite having a small upgrade lead and using a lot of Banelings there. Has he overextended? Both players are level at 66 drones aside. This is just a ridiculously close series and a close game at the moment. The difference between these two is mainly the resources lost at this stage. 10,500 compared to 8,100 of life. Snute losing a bit more. There's also, obviously, the tech difference. Snute only just now about to complete up his Hydra Den. Hydralisks and Infestors are already making their way to the field for life, so he's got a superior army composition for the late game, and Snute hasn't really kept up in that regard. He had an awful lot of damage done, planning on getting a lot of damage done with those roaches, and since he wasn't able to achieve it, he's kind of scrambling to catch up. Life is maxed out. He's going to be looking to apply some pressure. He's only got the 3 Infestors, and currently none of them have a fungal growth. But once those fungals start coming on up, that's going to make a big boost to the damage. The Hydralisks are there as well on both sides. It's all going to come down to positioning. Who can get the better attack arc here? Probably more importantly, will Life be able to get the good fungals? Because if the fungals hit the money, that's where Snute is going to really see his supply plummet. That's the one thing that is massively missing at the moment for the Liquid Zerg. But Infestors aren't the be-all and end-all. If the spread's good from Snute's units, so the fungal growths don't get a good number of units clumped, then actually Infestors aren't that supply efficient. The position of the fight is also going to be paramount. These two are both going to be looking to get the better concave at the moment. They're both level of the 66 drones, a very calculated number. They're allowing them to get a solid income. Both players building up a decent bank. Fungal goes down. This will trap a couple of units of Snute, and that's actually a really good pick-off. But Snute flanking round from the left. He may have lost the trade on the right, but he's trying to get in a better position here. Second fungal, not really catching anything. Just 2 roaches, which isn't quite enough to make it worthwhile. Snute still posturing, trying to get in a good spot. Gets hit by a big fungal. That's going to force the engagement here for Snute. He's got a slight numbers advantage in terms of the Hydralisks. That's really allowing him to dish out more damage Both sides are at the 2-2 upgrades. The Infestors out of energy. They're not going to be contributing anymore to this particular fight, but still, they are alive. Numbers are really on Life's side at the moment. Snute loses the majority of his army, but it wasn't that devastatingly cost inefficient. He did take out a large chunk of Life's army, but Life is able to rapidly resupply. Already back up to that 200 of 200 as these final reinforcements pop on in. What is Snute going to be able to do here? What can he achieve, and how is he going to be looking to achieve it? He's adding in a lot more Hydralisks. Overall, his Hydralisk count is still going to be down on that of Life's. He's looking to try and grab a 5th base, hoping that if he gets that down, it buys him a bit more time in this game. We're already 22 minutes through, and Life is now pushing forward. This is going to be a very tough hold for Snute. He's down a bit in the army supply. This 4th base, potentially going to fall, because a lot of these units aren't even out on the field yet for Snute. He wants to try and save it. He's taking this fight, but numbers are overwhelmingly in Life's favor. There's a couple of great fungal growths, as well as a few Hydralisks flanking in from the left there. Able to get more of us around. The attack arc is better for Life. Snute's supply is plummeting. Meanwhile, Startail Life reinforcing with more roaches, keeping that supply up, dropping down a couple of beach balls for the party, and there's the GG. And we have it there, that Life is able to take game number 2 of this best of 7.